All of that just to get back to the starting point. What's the best rep range for men over 50? Hey man, Gary Walker here, and welcome back for another video. This is a video where I'm gonna tell you the best rep range to build muscle after 50. Okay, and yes, there is a difference. So here's the thing, when it comes to doing rep ranges, typically 2 to 5 reps. If you're working to failure within the 2 to 5 rep range, typically that's gonna generate more strength-based training. Beyond that, you wanna go into the 6 to 8 rep range. That's gonna give a little bit of strength and a little bit of hypertrophy. Now, this is for everybody. So those are the standard rep ranges, and hypertrophy or muscle building is usually 8 to 12 reps. So that's basically the standard. Now, we're not dealing with the standard anymore. So you're 50 years old, maybe you're 60 or 70. So you do need to do things differently, and your body is gonna respond differently, because it's not just about lifting heavier weight anymore. It's about using time under tension. You wanna put more tension on the muscles you're trying to work, and then also intensity. So there's a lot of different intensity techniques that you can utilize to help you stimulate your muscle to get more muscle growth without having to overload your joints and stress your central nervous system. Basically, the point of this video is I'm gonna tell you what I found to be the best rep ranges for my guys. When I say my guys, I'm basically talking about the guys that are in my coaching program and just guys that I've worked with over the years, because I've got close to 3 decades of experience. I've been doing this a long time. So over that time, I've been able to hone in on what works best, what strategies work best, and what rep ranges work best. Now, knowing that, the first thing you also need to realize is that we're all unique. 8 billion people in the world, man. So obviously, what works for this group over here may not work for this group. So you gotta keep that in mind. A lot of this is DNA dependent. What I'm telling you that I found to work best is more for the averages. Now, you may fall out of that category, which is fine. So at the end of the day, it's best to experiment with different rep ranges anyways. And also, I like to go through the different rep ranges. So when I design my programs based on phases. One phase, which is typically 30 days, we'll do some strength-based stuff. Now, a lot of it depends on the goals, whatever your goals are coming into my program. So I may do 8 weeks of strength-based stuff. Then we're gonna go into some hypertrophy work, and I get to know what your body is like throughout my programs. Now, when you're somebody that doesn't really have a coach, you can still learn that by paying attention to your biofeedback. So what I like to do is tell you to write down your starting weights, your, whatever your goals are, whether it's strength-based, muscle building, or both. Just write that down and then track it. Stick with a certain rep range, see what your body does with that, see how it responds to that. If it's not working, switch it up, go to higher reps and see how your body responds to that. And if you're tracking things, you're keeping up with it, then you will eventually learn what your body responds best to. Now, I'm gonna give you some standards that I like, but one more thing I'm gonna get into, because again, it doesn't need to be overcomplicated. At the end of the day, like I say, we're all different and you are unique. You're your own person. So you may respond completely different from your stimulus than I do from mine. With that said, one of the things that you can look at is your muscle fiber type. Slow twitch muscle fiber type or fast twitch muscle fiber type. Now, slow twitch is type 1 muscle fibers. Fast twitch, type 2 muscle fibers. Now, one of the easiest ways to determine, what type you have, or we may have, one more than the other, or you may just have a good mixture of both, but typically your body's gonna lean one way over the other. What I like to do is ask you, when you were younger, when you were growing up, were you the fastest kid in your school? Or were you that kid that could just jog and not get tired? You typically have those 2 types of individuals. Now, if you are a sprinter, you're lining up for the 100-meter dash and you're faster than most, you can jump high, you can do all those explosive things, then you probably have more fast twitch muscle fibers. Now, typically what I found is people that fall into that category can lift a little bit heavier weight. When you put more load on your muscles with less repetitions, you tend to build more muscle tissue. Now, the other side of that are the guys that are more endurance based. If you're gonna line up for the 100 meters, you're probably gonna come in last, second to last, but you can run a mile and outrun most people. That's more of the slow twitch fiber type. And a lot of times you got endurance-based muscle fibers and you can do some higher rep training and get good results with that kind of training, meaning you don't have to go near as heavy, you can use lighter weights and a little bit higher repetitions. Now, with all that being said, what I found to work best for the rep ranges with all my guys, 50s, 60s, and even 70s, is the 8 to 12 rep range. Now that's strength-based. And I do have some guys that, you know what, I'll put in a strength-based program and I'll go as low as 6 reps, typically not lower than that. So some of the popular programs back in, I guess, the 80s, maybe 90s, the 5 sets of 5 training, which is balls to the wall training, 5 sets, go as heavy as you can for 5 repetitions, maxing out. I don't ever recommend that for anyone over 40 really, much less anyone over 50. Because just because your muscles can do that, just because you can build enough strength to do that successfully, doesn't mean first, your central nervous system can handle it. And second, and most important, is your joints. All right, typically when you're 50 years old, first of all, congratulations to making it to 50, but 50, 60, 70, there's a lot more wear and tear on your joints. The last thing you need to do is overstress your joints. Especially for the sake of just trying to build muscle, because there's several ways to build muscle. One is just creating more stimulus, more intensity, more tension without the extreme weight. And the other is overloading the muscle and just using heavier weights. So knowing you can do both, I'm always gonna recommend the first one I mentioned, intensity techniques. Like Tricon training, that will actually add intensity, but also add time under tension. So if you don't know what my Tricon training is, make sure you check out some of my other videos. I got a lot of videos on the channel about my Tricon training and why they're so effective for older men. But it allows you to build more muscle by increasing the time under tension and the intensity of a lift of an exercise per rep without overstressing the joints, because you're not having to use much weight. So that's one of the benefits to doing Tricon training. There's also superset training, pre-exhaust training, drop sets. I use a lot of techniques with my guys, and I'm gonna recommend those for you as well, because you can use those techniques and it's gonna allow you to build more muscle with less weight. So all of that just to get back to the starting point. What's the best rep range for men over 50? I'm always gonna ask you to start at the 8 to 12 rep range. Those are mostly for compound movements, meaning your bench presses, your back rows, your squatting, things like that, shoulder presses. Now, when you're doing isolation exercises, you're talking about curls, you're talking about lateral raises, then I like to go from 12 to 20 repetitions. Those have a lot more slow twitch muscle fibers usually. And again, if you're keeping track with everything and you're doing 8 to 12 reps for 8 weeks, then I want you to switch it up. That doesn't mean you stick to 8 to 12 year round. I want you to spend more time in the recommended rep range. However, change it up, because your body is great at adapting. So if you do the same thing day in, day out, your body's gonna adapt to it. And if it's adapted, it's not gonna respond with any new muscle tissue. So that's the key. You wanna change it up. And I don't mean changing it up every week. Stick to something for about 8 weeks with a certain rep range pattern, and then go to another rep range. And if you are tracking everything, you can look at your notes and find out what's giving you the best growth, what's giving you the best strength, and all of those things. And you're gonna learn your body a lot better by tracking it yourself. Now, if you're struggling to do that or you just don't wanna do that, I will always recommend hiring a coach. A coach that's been there, done that, can help you figure out what works best for you. And once you know that going forward, it's gonna be a lot easier to maintain what you're trying to do with your fitness levels, your muscle building goals, and all those things. But hopefully you like this video. I know I didn't give you a definite as far as what is the best rep range, because there is no best rep range. because what works best for me may not work best for you, but knowing there's a general rep range to start with and just take that and run with it. If you're tracking, you're gonna learn so much. The last thing quickly, and then I'll wrap up this video, is one thing I've discovered over the years is just because one thing works for your, let's say your upper body, doesn't mean that same thing is gonna work for your lower body. Meaning, personally, for me to grow my chest, I need 6 to 8 rep ranges. And when I say the 6 to 8 rep range, you're actually challenging yourself. Even if I say 8 to 10 or 10 to 12, you're basically trying to push yourself hard enough to where you can barely get those reps. I don't mean stop at 6 to 8 with the weight that you can probably do 11 or 12 reps with, because that's not pushing yourself hard enough. You wanna fall within that rep range or leave 2 reps in reserve. Meaning, if you're supposed to do 8 to 10 reps and you're starting with 50-pound dumbbells and you can do 15 reps, it is way too light for muscle growth. So go to 60 pounds. If you can barely do 12, maybe do 2 more reps, which is the 2 reps in reserve. If you can do 13, maybe 14, that's a good starting weight. That's how you can determine when to find the right weight to work within a certain rep range. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because, like I said, my chest, my upper body, 6 to 8 reps. However, my quads, they respond best to 18 to 22 reps. High reps will grow my legs quickly. Now, and I had to learn that the hard way. When I was younger, I was squatting 450, got up to 500 pounds, started getting a wider waist, wider hips. My legs never really grew. The tape never really changed, but my strength kept going up. Now, it took a back injury, so I tweaked my back going that heavy, so I took off for about 6 months of any heavy weight training. And then I started doing light leg work, squats with 20 reps. I started doing 5 sets of 20 squats. My legs started growing quickly. And to this day, if I ever want to add size to my legs, it's 20 rep squats. And same with a lot of my clients. There's a lot of people I've known over the years, because I've been in this industry 3 decades, that were extremely strong, can push a ton of weight, yet that muscle was very small in comparison to their strength. Now, going from that to a lighter weight typically is an ego check. It's hard when you know you can push 400 pounds to cut that down to 250 or something and work with that. So leave your ego out the door. Just make sure you're challenging the muscles and filling the muscles you're trying to work, as opposed to just getting through point A to point B and just pushing weight. So hopefully that helps you out. Hope you like this video. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, get busy, get after it, and God bless.